So project management, getting your objectives clear, sometimes referred to as scope management. Scope management, detailing the work content in terms of time, cost and quality. And the scope of the project identifies everything you're going to do, the elements of the project scope. And in scope, what you are going to do, out of scope, what you're not doing. And one of the big problems of project management is scope creep. And this is where the environment around the project, the different people want different things, and things change over the life of the project. So the purpose of this little video clip is to look at the communication of the project and capturing our project objectives in some sort of project specification. So this is really about communication. And one of the main things to look at in this slide are the different methods of communication. We'll be looking at communication again in the human factors lecture. But communication is email, it's reports, it's face-to-face, it's formal, it can be informal, it's newsletters, it's videos. One of the first things I did on a research project once was spend £50,000 to record a video of what life will be like when the project is completed. This was one of these IT projects where people can't envisage what something might actually be like. So we actually created a video, and partly because it was a research project using European partners where English isn't their first language, the ability to play a video forwards, backwards, repeat it, made the project objectives really clear. Now, the documentation you have for the project needs to be available, needs to be readable, needs to be agreed. So these are different aspects of making sure your project specification is absolutely clear. And I keep referring to it as the specification for the project, but different project management books and different project management methodologies call it different things. Prince 2 calls it a project initiation document, or a project definition document, a project management plan, a project charter. So these are all terms that you could Google when you're looking for ideas about what goes into the project charter, the project specification. Recently, I was working with a company that called it a project execution plan, a PEP. Whatever you call it, this document contains everything you know about the project and also everything you don't know. And it's a document that is a communication tool. So this project specification tells us how we're going to achieve the project, who's going to be involved, when it's happening, at a very high level. What are the main risks? How much is it going to cost? Where is it happening? So this is the questions that are answered in a project management plan. Call it project specification, call it project initiation document. Prince 2 refers to it as a project initiation document and has this definition. It's a focal point for all of the information on the project, the what, the why, the who, the how and the when. The project initiation document starts off with the business objectives, the business case, and how we're going to actually achieve that. The project scope, what we are doing, what we're not doing, who's involved in the project, as a management team or as an operational team, how we're going to organise them, the key dates for the project, what documents are going to be produced, the major risks for the project. So when we start a project, we might have all of these as headings, but we don't understand what goes in them. And our job as a project manager is to develop and enhance this document over time, putting in more and more information as we gather it. Here's something that can be found on Google. It's an example of a project charter. And it's suggesting that these are the things involved in a project, the risks, the documentation, the boundaries. One of the reasons I don't provide students with an example project specification is they just use the same thing. That's what I'll see submitted with coursework. So I'm giving you lots of different examples, lots of different ideas about what should be included, and then you create yours that you think is suitable for your project. There's lots of different types of specification, test specifications, design specifications, commercial specifications, and sometimes an organisation will refer to these documents separately. I would argue that once you combine them all together, they become the project specification. So what should a project specification include? It should start with, on the front page, the vision for the project. Why are we doing this project and what it's going to achieve? Okay, more deeper inside, we'll get down to the project objectives. Exactly what are the SMART objectives for this project? There could be many of those. The scope of the project, what it's about, what it's not about. Maybe the front will have a sign-off page, because it's really important that we get everybody involved in this project to agree that this project specification is what the project's about. Very often people will agree to a document, but when you ask them to sign it, they'll start looking for little changes. What you're trying to do is get them to sign this document to flush out those changes. The bulk of this specification will be the technical chapters about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And it depends what the project is about. I mean, if it's a concrete construction, it'll be about the technical aspects of the concrete and the reinforcement. If it's a steel bridge, it'll be about the types of the steel. So the technical chapters will depend on the type of project you're working on. If you've done this project before, then you may have less detail. If it's a new project to you, you're going to need more detail. Here's an idea of the topics that could go into a specification. These are actually taken out. There's 57 items on this list. These are actually taken out of a new product design specification book. So you ought to be thinking about, for your new product design, what about warranty costs? What about legal issues? What about training? What about packaging? What about environmental issues? What about the weight of this? How are we going to transport it? So this sort of list can act as an aide-memoire, a little checklist. Have I thought about everything I need to? Now, two more important chapters for your project specification. What is definitely not in the project? Write it down what you're not doing. Let me use an example here. We're developing the next BMW 3 Series. The vehicle is going to be a 4-door saloon car. We are not doing a 2-door coupe version. We are not doing a cabriolet version of this vehicle. Because if you don't say that you're not doing it, somebody in your organisation will assume that you are incorrectly and waste time and effort. So write down what you're not doing, what is out of scope, and also write down what is unknown about the project. We do not know where we are manufacturing this vehicle. Or we are assuming that because we don't know yet. And then people know that these are unknowns. They're things to find out for the future. So you go to all this trouble, you write this documentation. This document needs to be available. Personally, I still believe that there is nothing like reading through a hard copy version. One of the benefits of a hard copy version is you could print it on different colour paper. And then you would know immediately whether people were working off the latest version of the document. Okay, we often now email people documents, but can you imagine the situation where you email a project specification to the 10 members of your project team and they all start to update their own master version and you're out of control? Perhaps the best thing to do is use some sort of SharePoint, shared drive, have the master version on there. But you have to issue it, you have to get agreements, get people to sign it off, get the customer to approve it, and stay in version control. So this is configuration management or change control. Make sure your documents have numbers. Make sure your drawings have numbers. Make sure that you have a change plan, maybe in an appendix that sort of says what's changed in this version. The worst thing that can happen on your project is somebody starts to work on an old version of your project specification. So this is configuration management. If you're producing documentation, you need people to read it. Now, as students, can I just say, if you're working on a third-year dissertation and you're writing a dissertation, you want your supervisor to read it. You want them to enjoy reading it, so you want it to be readable. So here are some tips for making a document readable. Lots of white space, some clear language, a glossary of terms at the beginning for all those different acronyms and complicated words, bullet points, diagrams, pictures. These days, printing in colour and taking pictures should be really easy. So have a document that's readable. Take a photograph of the old machine that you are replacing. Get the supplier to send you a photograph of the new machine and what it looks like. We want people to pick up this project document and be interested in reading it, because then they might say, but that's wrong. And that's when you're learning something about your project. For your student dissertations, you want your supervisor to enjoy reading it, such that he doesn't realise it's taken him 2 hours and he's just read it all. The last thing you want is pages and pages of text with no pictures and figures that he really thinks, oh, crikey, have I got to mark this? Because your mark's already going down. Your documentation for your project needs to be agreed. One of the best ways of this is to get the project team to create it in the first place. Get the project team to generate the technical chapters. It's not something that the project manager does or that the customer does. Get the team to create it as a joint effort. They're more likely to feel committed to the project. It's their project. And then get everybody to sign it. The team, the customer, the management. Get them to sign that this is what we've agreed to deliver. So what we've done is in section 2 here, we've looked at different ways of creating and communicating project objectives. If we want project success, then we need clear goals. Goals that meet the company's aims. Sponsorship from the senior management. Consultation with everybody who's involved in the project. We'll be talking about project stakeholders in a different lecture. Realistic plans, achievable plans, a team that's motivated to deliver them. So if we've got clear goals, good objectives, key performance indicators, clear deliverables, sponsorship, a good business case, senior management support, open consultation, communication with those stakeholders, the project specification signed off, realistic plans, and we'll look at that in the next lecture, and a motivated team. Part of the motivation is for them to believe that they are part of this project, getting them to write the project specification, the first step, and in lecture 3, we'll get them involved in creating the project plans. So this section, lecture 2, has been looking at making sure we've got senior management support for the project, to make sure that the benefits of the project benefit the organisation, to make sure we've got clear, smart project objectives, and to get those documented in some project specification or project charter and get that communicated with the rest of the organisation. So go and have a look. Go and find some business cases for projects. Go and have a look at some of those examples of project failures. Think about project aims and objectives. Think about communication in projects. Think about real-life projects that have gone wrong, and was it because the objectives weren't clear?